In Lebanon, demonstrators have taken to the streets to protest the economic crisis in the country. At least one protester has died in the unrest. The coronavirus has only added to the country's economic woes, with many losing their jobs in an economy that was already struggling. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tyab. Imtiaz, can you explain exactly what is the situation right now in Lebanon?
Reena, good to talk to you. Well, frankly, an explosive situation on the streets of Lebanon right now as protesters for the third day continue to defy coronavirus curfews and clash with security forces. Now, what really drove people out into the streets is when the country's currency lost, now get this, 75% of its value, sparking what is perhaps Lebanon's worst economic crisis since its 15-year civil war ended back in 1990. Protesters say they're facing hunger, they're facing desperation unlike ever before, and they're blaming it squarely on what they say is decades of corruption and chronic mismanagement on the part of their political leaders. Now, I should note that this protest movement first erupted back in October, but of course really ground to a halt in March after that coronavirus lockdown was put in place. But this lockdown really just sort of weakened this economy further. In fact, Lebanon's social affairs minister said, as of today, 3/4 of the country needs some kind of aid. 3/4 of the country, Reena.
Yeah, I mean, that economy completely in tatters even before the coronavirus outbreak. Last night, we saw these protesters targeting banks. Describe for us what happened exactly.
Yeah, I mean, again, extraordinary streets, not only on the streets of the capital Beirut, but in the city of Tripoli in the north, the second largest city in the country, and of course the southern city of Sidon. This is where we saw protesters targeting banks and ATM machines and confronting security forces. All of it is rooted in the anger at the dire economic situation, which has seen an unprecedented devaluation of the Lebanese currency. But also, it's a symptom of the tight and often changing restrictions on how much money people can withdraw from their own bank accounts. These are restrictions that were put in place by the central banks. Now, these controls mean that people's foreign and domestic currency accounts are essentially restricted to only tiny amounts of money that they can pull out on any given day. All of this has led to the panic and the anger that we're now seeing on the streets, which of course has resulted in scores and scores of people wounded and at least one person dead.
How much of this, Imtiaz, can you put sort of a label on how much of this is a result also of the coronavirus outbreak?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, the COVID-19 crisis and the resulting lockdown measures have only compounded the sort of poverty and economic hardship that most Lebanese face even before the virus. And if anything, has just further exposed and exacerbated these sort of economic problems which have been there for so long. And although people, it needs to be said, did stay home to protect themselves and their health, and of course the government enforced a lockdown which largely helped in limiting the spread of the disease, public trust continued to erode in political leaders' ability to help people weather this crisis and pull Lebanon out of its worst economic crisis in many, many years. Now, very quickly, Reena, I just want to end with a note from the U.S. State Department. Its top diplomat in the Middle East has urged Lebanon to prove its, quote, commitment to reforming its economy to secure international assistance, saying that Lebanon needs money, needs support from other countries, but it's not going to get it until it reforms. Reena.
Interesting warning there from the State Department. I want to thank you very much, Imtiaz Tyab, joining us from our London bureau. Thank you.